is now 6:45 AM, and I have been working on this paperage, this documentage, for some time now, and here we are going to review The Time of the Doctor. I have been up all night writing this mostly. It's okay, I woke up at 10 o'clock in the night. I don't sleep at night, I sleep during the day. But yeah, it does get you, the being nocturnal. It's not for everybody, but then it's not for everyone. The whole REM cloning torture thing, but it's fine. Let's move on. So, sorry, hello. Okay, we're awake now. Everything's fine because I've just been sat silently watching bits of The Time of the Doctor again. Kind of, because my computer has been stupid and it can't render a 1080p fucking image. I don't know what it is with fucking just television images nowadays. They've gotten more crisp. It's like they've gotten more 1080p than they were before. I don't know what it is, but anyway. So, after struggling, and the fucking video player, VLC, does anyone else use VLC? Like, it only ever happens a few times with videos. I've been trying to click through the fucking video, just the bits that I want to get to, and then it just sticks back directly to wherever it is that I am currently, so you have to fast forward it super quickly, and it's like, that's annoying when you're trying to fucking write a fly on the wall fucking review as you're watching it type thing, you know. It's like stream of consciousness, what I've written down here, so hopefully we'll get through it relatively quickly, quicker than we did the Day of the Doctor. Potentially, possibly, probably, perhaps, I don't know. This is the final nail in the coffin for Matt Smith, as it were, because he's fucked off now, and he's just going to go off into obscurity. Perhaps that was the idea. It does seem as though he's been slowly phased out for about a series and a half. They've been reworking it ever so slightly and surely, but there's lots of talk about whether or not he wants to leave or didn't want to leave. It's like first they're announced that he's going to go, and then it's announced later that he didn't want to go, and then Stephen was the one that was going to make him go, but then he wanted him to stay, and it's basically, they've got Matt Smith out of the limelight because he's a clone. I didn't say that, sorry. Anyway, so here we are, the final episode ever with not just Matt Smith, but I suppose most of my soul was destroyed at Day of the Doctor. Now, when I was watching Day of the Doctor, it just hurt. I was just watching John Hurt play not the Doctor, but the Doctor, and it just hurt me. If that was the intention, it fucking shot the bullet right on the mark there. Well done, Stephen. You took everything, and you just destroyed it so well. Within an hour and 16 minutes, it was quite impressive, really. I've talked about that before, but that's just a bit of recap. I'm not going to go into the early series or anything like that. We've talked that to fucking death, haven't we? So now we're just basically onto the death of the Doctor, or what is probably like the 7th death of the Doctor now, because how many have we had? We had the end of time, I'm going to die, bollocks. Then we moved on to, the Doctor's going to get locked in the Pandorica, so he's actually the only thing that survived through that whole thing. But the TARDIS was meant to be, exploded, and he could have been in it. And even if he was in it, he would have just been sealed into a time loop, so I don't know how that works. And when you blow up the TARDIS, you blow up all fucking creation, which was a bit of an oversight on the silences, Mark, because it is revealed in this episode. We're trying to stop him from doing some shizzle, but we'll get to that. It's just, so then, what is it? The 6th series opens with his death, and then the mid-series is about him being a warrior and being warlike, and then in Let's Kill Hitler, he's got poisoned, so we think he's going to die there, which he does, until he gets brought back by River, and then he has to go to the wedding of River Song where we have to see his death again, but then it doesn't happen, but then at the end they have to make it so it does, but then you find out it actually doesn't happen. So now, in the new series 7, we had the Ponds leaving, dying, whatever, because Rory has also died several times, but fuck Rory. It's now Fields of Trenzalore, so at the end of The Name of the Doctor, we get there, the Doctor is already dead, it's just established that he's dead now, and this is his TARDIS interior, the current one, and blah blah blah, and then in Day of the Doctor, no, he's not dying, is he? But there's an incarnation of him that's constantly going on, going, oh, no, I'm not the Doctor, no, I'm not a nice person, no. It's like one of those depressives you get, who are just constantly like, I can't do anything right, I'm so shit, why am I so shit? And you've got people constantly going, but you're not shit, and they're just like, no, I am. That's how it felt. And then, now, we're finally at the time of the Doctor's death. But we're also not, because that's not going to happen. I don't know why they keep throwing it in there as something that's a possibility, because it isn't. Even if it is a possibility, it's still an impossibility that it will last, essentially. The Doctor can die as many times as he likes. He's just going to come back. You always come back. You can't kill the motherfucker. I don't even see why there's any point fucking trying anymore. Why anyone's afraid of him. They should all just bow down to him as some immortal super being that's just beyond the realms of this universe's fucking grasp with regards to ending it. It's just... Well, this is how I feel at the end of this episode, because it's a bit overblown. So, shall we get into it? So this episode is simultaneously, it's like we need to seal up all the loose plots that have been dragged along for so long now that they're basically just like a nanometer in thickness, like the strands. Do you know if you were to pull some wool, out of a clump, originally it's like a nice big bit of string. But then the further you pull it away, it starts getting more and more frayed until there's like tiny bits left. We're talking a nanometer thick now, because these things have just been pulled to their very fucking edge, where almost no one can even give a shit about them anymore. It's not even worth really looking at, but I stuck with it. I stuck with this episode because, as I was saying, after the Day of the Doctor, I was watching that and I was thoroughly hurt and depressed through that. But then, as I was watching this, I had a big fucking smile on my face. I had a huge smile on my face. I was just laughing. I was laughing at everything because it was so bad. And I've just... In a way, it was the ending that I expected to see. It wasn't the end that I was hoping to see, but it was definitely the end that I was expecting to see. The send-off to Matt Smith... The tying up of the plot, everything happened in here I expected, basically. Because I had since given up hope on hoping that it would have been resolved in the way that I wished it had been resolved. Anyone who still has that hope, you are a stronger being than I. You would last under torture much longer than I would. It just welled up, warrior, because either that or you're just a fool, There never was much hope, only a fool's hope. But basically after Wedding of River Song, and the gap in between it not being on and it being on, you had lots of time to reflect about how much fan theorying you did in between the 3 months of A Good Man Goes to War and Let's Kill Hitler, at which point you came to the inevitable realization that yes, there is basically what is a cunt at the head of Doctor Who, and he is just gonna cunt it about willy-nilly as much as he fucking likes, because he's a cunt. And that's what's happened to Doctor Who, and it's essentially happened with everything else, and why you should think that Doctor Who is in any way separate from that, just because it might be your favourite show. It was just your own hope. So here we are. This is the future that we're all in. Is basically the degradation of almost everything that we hold dear. There are a few things that have been made good. The new Dredd film, that was a fucking remake worth its salt. Wish you could see more of that stuff about the place. But Doctor Who is a series that is perpetually being remade, and while it can work in the idea of the show because it's a fucking mechanic worked into the show, I think it makes sense that it's going to fall into the hands of somebody at some point, and they're going to make it shit. And I've said this before in many a video, that the only reason why Doctor Who is even good in the first place is essentially because of your own imagination. You're the one that brings it to life. I said before, if you were to make a little diagram and whatnot of what's presented to you and what's resolved and how it's resolved and reference and stuff, there isn't actually a lot of it there, and what you have to do is come up with your own theories of it. The problem is a lot of the show is designed to make you feel as though it should be resolved, but then the way that it is or isn't makes you feel like it's lacking. It's not like, it's a case of they don't show the monster, so you're meant to imagine it yourself. You feel like it's deliberately lacking in the substance which you essentially promised for sometimes series-long amounts, and then when it doesn't get resolved, you just feel crap. So now they've changed up almost everything. All we need is a new companion. I hope. Just get the fuck rid of Clara now. It's just there's no reason why she should even exist. Literally, get to that, but literally there's no reason why she should exist. She should just faded away at the end of time with the Doctor. I don't understand how anything works, but it's been like that for some time now, so I'm not surprised, really. You might be noticing a certain more calmer attitude with this episode, because really I think it's just funny. It's funny now, the way it's it's funny. So after that very long rambly intro, let's get to All the Time of the Doctor. And poor Matt Smith. He tries to act his way out of this so well. And it's just a shame. It's a shame for Matt Smith. He should have had a better fucking send-off, even though this whole send-off is basically something that he pulled together himself. If he didn't act this away, then it would have been crap. But the minuscule bits of acting that he gets, he pulls off fantastically, and it's nice, even if he is potentially some sort of birth clone used by various elites for nefarious purposes. So anyway, number 3's Cape. Yes, well actually no, the first intro of it, so off the bat this episode fucks me off, because it's like, we start off with, it's Trenzalore. Well done, you've shown me Trenzalore, because we're going to go to Trenzalore. And I'll get onto a bit in a minute about the disjointedness of how this fucking follows on from Day of the Doctor, but for a minute. We got this planet, it's got some rings around it, fair enough, and then we've got the voiceover of who we know will be Tasha Len. So it's one of those episodes, is it, where a kind of antagonist side character will a bit narrate part of the episode, predominantly the opening and any bits in the episode where we need to montage and cut past a couple of various plot points quite quickly. Yeah? It's going to be one of those episodes, isn't it? Happened in the End of Time. I remember episodes like that. And this is a Christmas special episode, isn't it? So we're back to that, are we? I did say before that. So before Christmas special episodes were never that integral. They were usually quite fun and throwaway. It was only really the Christmas Invasion which had any real meaning to it, because it was introducing David Tennant, but you see there it was done well because we'd done all of the serious shit in Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways, all the emotional, deep-ass shit, and now we could just have a fun little throwaway episode where we can have David Tennant come around and introduce him, and that's all light-hearted because he's discovering who he is, and that was a fucking perfect episode. It was perfect. There was flaws with it, but it was perfect with what it needed to do. Whereas the consequent episodes, well, the one after that introduced Donna, who will later be a companion, but that's not like a major thing, you know. It's not as though we're changing up the TARDIS interior and then basing around a whole fucking main huge amount of resolution of plot points, which you've continuously strung us along for what is essentially 3 and a bit series, not including Christmas specials. It's, So yes, Runaway Bride, Donna, you know, if Catherine Tate is anything that integral, then there you go. She's about as integral as she sounds. Then you got, what was it, the Voyage of the Damned. Now that was your fucking traditional Christmas episode. Didn't need to do shit. It was just David Tennant being a bit depressed, essentially. Got that along pretty well. And then Kylie Minogue, idiotly enough, like a moron, just drives off the edge of a fucking chasm in like a little fucking forklift that travels 3 miles an hour. Stupid. But throwaway. Very fucking throwaway. And then the next, well, it was all specials throughout that one year, wasn't it? The Waters of Mars, the Next Doctor, and all that kind of stuff. And then the Snowman, and A Christmas Carol, the Doctor, the Widow, the Wardrobe, you know, all bollocks. But then the Snowman, it's like, oh, well, lots of time has passed, it seems. There's a new TARDIS interior, which we don't see change into. It's just presented to us because Matt Smith was depressed. And now we introduce Clara, and that's a bit integral, and we're like, what the fuck? And now, like I say, it's just, we're going to end with the regeneration, the resolution, well, I say the resolution, I mean the throwaway lines which we have to really pay attention for, essentially, in order to get our fanboy fucking theories closed off, at least to some degree. That's what's happening here, in this episode. all in the Christmas episode, so if you're that invested in Doctor Who in the way that I am, up until this point, it ruins your Christmas. This is like the only decent thing that anyone will watch on Christmas Day. It's 2013, people. What else is there right now that's actually of any fucking interest? Sherlock's not coming back on until January, and that wasn't coming back on for so long. It's basically like, well, Sherlock has been Khan, the Necromancer, and the Dragon before he's been Sherlock again. That's what he's been up to in the time when he's just pretended that he's been dead. He's not just shown up, you know, at court cases and solving little bits of crimes. He's been in the media as well. He's been doing voiceovers. He's been doing fucking, you know, recasting villains and stuff. He's been all over the place. The clues have been there, people. Yes, Christmas episode. It ruins it. Just ruins your Christmas Day. I mean, I was laughing at the end of it, but a bit hysterically. And my Christmas Day was shit anyway. Most of my Christmas days are shit, and my birthdays. Now that I've come to realizations, but it's just... Here we go. Voiceover. I didn't even get into what the voiceover is saying. I actually just started rambling into exactly what I knew this episode is, because here's the thing, guys, is that I'm thinking about this is the bit, this is the end. This is the end of everything Doctor Who, essentially, for me. So I'm not just scrutinizing this episode, I'm scrutinizing my scrutinizing of this episode. It's ridiculous, everything that I'm paying attention to, and not only have I paid attention to it when I watched the episode, but I have just spent hours writing lots about it and watched it a bit extensively, so I know how it goes. And it's funny, in Day of the Doctor I wrote 20 pages, this I wrote 30. It's like almost every second in this episode there's something to discuss, because one of its failures is, again, Stephen Moffat not wanting to fork out the extra couple of minutes runtime. So we've got the 50th anniversary special, which is essentially 1 hour and 16 minutes, including intro and outro. This episode has the horrific intro and the horrific outro, so you knock a couple of minutes off of that, whatever. It's an hour and 1 minute runtime wise, this episode, and they spent 3 episodes basically setting up the whole Master stuff, and that felt decent. You can sit down and watch that, and someone else can be in the next room and watch RoboCop 1, and you can come out almost at the same time and be like, yeah, those are both good things. We liked it, it was well thought out, basically. But in this, it's just, cram it all in, just cram it all in, for a concept, show which uses its concept based around a lot of, one of its main concepts is based around the idea of time travel. You don't really know how to insert large chunks of time into shows to help explain them better, Stephen. What? The 45 minute or 1 hour and minute runtime that you have, it will not last longer than it seems. It's not bigger on the inside like the TARDIS is, and you actually do a little bit of a fuck up in this episode and show that, but I'll get to that in a minute. So anyway, never mind me rambling away. Even if you are watching this and you're still listening to me, then if you've watched the rest of it, what is your life like? Is it like mine? It's horrible, isn't it? It's just, people like us. It's just, So, the voiceover, there's a planet, okay? It's a planet basically the same as any other, she's saying. It's an ordinary planet, or it's a planet like the rest. She says it's a normal planet, okay? But this isn't a planet that's got basically like 3 or 4 minutes of sunlight during the day. That's not a normal planet, is it? Isn't your normal planet that's got your sort of day and night cycle? Most planets are like that. Most planets have got your north and your south and stuff. Not all planets are rings, but I'll give that a pass, because I haven't seen every planet out there. More of them could have rings than not, why the fuck not? But, and so, when I first saw Trenzalore, I did think that it was sort of like a giant burnt out sun type contraption, but I guess that's just because it's so war-torn and fucked over, because of the war that happened there, which we'll get to. But sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's just it's early in the morning, and there's things to talk about, and it's just why. And I am kind of looking back on this and kind of assessing my life, having understood the fact that I've basically talked about Doctor Who for more than 12 hours. I know at least that. It probably will be capping off to about a day's worth of talking about Doctor Who, and that's just, who does that? That's okay. And in like a couple of goes as well. It's not like I've made little episodes about this over months. Just done this in a few days, and I should be doing like university assessments. They're in really soon, but I haven't been doing them. I've got like 6 days, haven't been doing them. I'm doing this instead, and it's like, I'm asking myself why. I guess it's just because I'm a bit of a OCD Doctor Who fan. I'm a bit of a psychopath. and that's part in fault to Stephen Moffat. And I think if this had been resolved in a nice way and I was interested in, like, you don't see me fucking making a video about the most recent Game of Thrones series for ages, because I actually liked that and that was quite good and I was just interested in it, so I'm interested in where it's going to go and I'm getting to a side point. But this has basically fucked me off to the point where I've got to write 50 pages collectively about 2 episodes, 53 pages essentially in all. That's not including the 2 little picture things that I did when I did my Day of the Doctor review. If you watched that, yay, thank you, at least you listened, ha ha ha. But you never get that time back again, sorry. But it's just, it is something that's in my head and that needed to be addressed, so now I'm addressing it, but I'm also reflecting my life now that I've addressed it, because there's other things in my life. This isn't just my life, it's just something that I'm doing slightly as a way of procrastinating, but then also as another way of escaping from the hideous, horrific scenario which I seem to be faced with in this goddamn fucking world, which is actually so insane. About 99% of you are unaware of it. It's really bad. So anyway, Doctor Who. Yes. Ordinary planet, that's only got a couple of minutes of sun, so fair enough, whatever. And this is the story of the man. Because there's a signal, you see. There's a fucking signal being broadcast along all space and time, because isn't there always some sort of fucking timey-wimey distress signal thing permeating the fucking space-time continuum? I'm surprised anyone can even fucking tell the difference between any of them, because there are so many. Do you know the shit they talk about when they say, oh, that's just galactic background noise? That's all the fucking space-time messages permeating the space-time continuum from various fucking points across the timeline. Because people just think it's like, well, this message needs to be heard by everyone. So there's just, boo! So yeah, there's a message. So it's one of those episodes, is it? That's not good. In the space of about 33 seconds. You've essentially just made me go, oh, so it's one of those episodes twice. That's not good. So here we are. Never mind the fact I was expecting that it was going to be Trains of the Lord, because we know, and it's also, that was the synopsis that was released before it was even announced. Well, before it was even broadcast, rather. And, you know? So, everyone's afraid. So where the fuck have I heard that fucking thing before? Oh, wasn't everyone on Earth having bad dreams? And then everyone was afraid there. Yeah? It seems a bit repetitive, doesn't it? But don't worry. There's fucking Inception style repetition here in this episode. I'll get to it. I'm not sure if people have pointed it out yet. Some people must have done, but this is the first video I've seen about it. It's important because it's funny, and then if you're a Doctor Who fan, if you hadn't noticed it, and you do like this kind of stuff, you're listening to me and you're interested because it's fun, you like hearing people ramble about it, and stay tuned, because I get to the mother of all Inception repetition references that Stephen Moffat has not just... I said before, he shot himself in the crotch. He has basically just taken a particle rifle to every inch of his body in this episode. It's so... Anyway. So Matt comes on. Oh, he's being classic 11 because that's all he can be in this episode. It's really depressing just to be watching him there. We're just watching every scene with him walking to his inevitable death. which I'm not sure he was on board for. They're basically like, okay, Matt, we're going to get you out of the limelight because people are going to be start asking questions soon, and it's best that we don't associate ourselves with you, clear? And he's like, well, okay, bye. And it comes across in this episode that that's how it is. It's just, he's on top form, but the thing is that he would have been on top form had you given him fucking decent things to actually emote and act with in the 1.5 series that you just spent fucking around with him with. It's just... So he's wearing Three's cape, makes him look a bit sort of Dracula style. I like that, that's fun. We don't know how this episode is connected to the Day of the Doctor. I'll get to that in a minute, like I said already. He's on a ship, and he's basically just got a Dalek eye nozzle thing, and he's like, yes, identify your species and your planet. And you see the long shot of it, and you see the... for no other reason than the fact that the audience is essentially idiots, and I don't know, just because this is the way that we need to do, it's like a stereotype thing. Because Daleks basically have bumps on the lower half section of them, we now have to have pillars in their ships, which are now covered in the exact same bumps. Weren't those bumps the things which actually ejected out of the Dalek thing and then blew it the fuck up for the self-destruction mechanism? So why the fuck are they all on these pillars now? Is that if we want to self-destruct the ship, we can just disconnect all of these sphere things and just blow stuff up? That doesn't make any sense. It's just, here's some pillars with the Dalek bumps on them, which you get shown about 1.5 seconds before the Doctor realises that it's a Dalek ship. So we know that it's a Dalek ship, so we can laugh at the fact that the Doctor is being wacky and then doesn't see that there's going to be Daleks surrounding him and he can do a little thing where he has to run away. Well done. Well fucking done. Matt does it well, and the best bit I like about it is when he's back in the ship, he's talking to the weird Cyberman head, who is a side character for the first 20 minutes of the episode, which is a repetition because if you remember in the Wedding of River Song, you had Dorium, the severed head with the chip in his head, and he was undead. He was the undead chip head, and he carried him around for like 20 minutes or something. Just had some chats with him. But he was a character. He was just a head, and now we've got the same thing here. He's not Dorium. He's Handles. He's an interesting character because he doesn't just scream. Oh, for fuck's sake, he does. He goes, Doctor Who. Both times you have heads as fucking side characters for a bit of the fucking episode. They both have to be going, Doctor Who, in the fucking episode. Well done, Stephen. It doesn't feel as though you've pulled this episode right out of your fucking crack in time. Ugh. He's there and he's like, next time you beam me onto a ship, don't beam me onto a Dalek ship while I'm holding a broken bit of Dalek. Whacks it on the head, bounces back, whacks his own head. Ow! Brilliant. Top form. Nice. I like it. Pity it wasn't in a other episode where it wasn't so fucking integral to this random story. Because here's another weird thing. The Doctor doesn't seem to understand the fact that he just basically saved Gallifrey, and it was even almost confirmed to him by the fact that you got the Tom Baker Doctor, not Doctor, cameo man showing up to him, basically going, Lost, shh, you can go looking for Gallifrey, maybe. Doctor who knows? It's called Gallifrey Falls no more. What do you think that means? Hint, hint, know what I mean? Nudge, nudge, say no more. I'm gonna go die now. He seems to be kind of unaware that this is exactly what's happening. Never mind the fact that he doesn't find out that the fucking planet is called Trenzalore until he's on it and then has to say, what's this planet called? Handles, the fucking ship, mainframe, system collection data thing, whatever it is. It's got a whole load of data in its head, yeah? It's a data head, okay? It's it doesn't just say this is what this planet is called. The planet is called Trenzalore. No. It has to be fucking revealed to us a good 25 minutes into the episode once we already know that it's fucking Trenzalore because it's so obvious, and the Doctor has to discover it as if it's basically like, oh right, yes, it's called Trenzalore. I get it now. Just, I hate it. I hate in the way that Matt Smith's Doctor, because of Stephen Moffat's writing, essentially just doesn't check shit out. He just doesn't, and doesn't seem to know stuff until it's prudent for him to know it. You know? Fucking David Tennant's Doctor and Christopher Eccleston's Doctor would just been throwing fucking facts at you for ages about everything. You know, he wouldn't fucking shut up about it. Do you remember when in Doomsday, when literally there's the fucking dramatic moment between the parallel version of Rose's dad and then Rose's mum, and then the Doctor's in the background and he's trying to explain the parallel universes stuff, and she's like, shut the fuck up so they can have the moment, you know? No, I get it, he's another Doctor, and I rationalise it by the fact that he's so old now. He's gonna get even older, but he's just fucking... How old is Matt Smith's regeneration by now? It seems as though he's just been knocking about for fucking... He actually says he's been knocking about for centuries by this point. It's really annoying because Matt Smith's Doctor, by the end of this whole thing, will have lived collectively probably more than 1,000 years, which is more than his entire life previously, and all of his other regenerations, which is a really fucking annoying thing considering that he hasn't aged at all up until this point, when it's prudent for him to age. And it's not even explained, it's just like now he's gonna start aging because this is the way that the plot's gonna go for this episode, even though there's another character in this episode that doesn't age because she's against aging, you know, as if it's like a moral stance. You know, I'm against aging, I'm not sure about those old people. You know, it's a life choice I don't quite agree with. What the fuck? You know, she's obviously just cheating death by using her papal mainframe motherfucking wizardry powers to just keep herself young. And then also keep herself alive after she gets Dalekarized. We're getting ahead of ourselves. So yes, handles. And then there's a nice bit when there's the phone ring. He's saying, and they're all here. Everyone's fucking showing up at this moment in time, because the signal's being projected across all space and time. Yes. So it's the oldest question in the universe, which the Doctor figures out as a throwaway thing. So that's why it's the oldest question in the universe. It's not the oldest question in the universe because it's Doctor Who, because whenever the Doctor has been time travelling and knocking about the place, people have always first asked Doctor Who when he introduces himself. It's now because Time Lords from Gallifrey sealed in a pocket universe are now asking for his name as a way of trying to escape, or basically come back into the universe because then it's safe. But the thing is, people, I'm skipping ahead, but the point is that if they hadn't been sending this message out perpetually across the universe, across all space and time, they wouldn't have drawn the attention of everyone in the fucking universe, thus not requiring the Doctor to have to come and save them. So it's really fucking Inception-y. We'll get to the rest of the Inception-y stuff, but that in itself is like, you fucking idiot Gallifreyan Time Lord motherfuckers. That's what happened in the last days of the Time War, is that you just were insane and are just like, oh god, we're in a parallel pocket universe now. How do we know if it's safe to come out? Well, let's just project this message across all of time and space, asking Doctor Who, and we'll push it through this crack, and we'll just wait until the doctor comes up to us and tells us that it's safe by telling us his name. That's what we're gonna do, even though we don't really know if they can actually exist on the other side of there, in the idea of time-wise. Do they just, like, after they've been pushed into the pocket universe, are they frozen, or are they literally living their lives in the pocket universe? In which case, what's bad? What's bad about that? Well done, Gallifrey. Not only are you safe and fine, but you're in your own pocket universe, through which you can basically... Could they not have sent one fucking Time Lord person through? A scout! A fucking scout! Is that beyond the realms of comprehension for you, Stephen? No, we've got to... It's all or nothing, isn't it? This is why TARDISes, basically, when they explode all of reality. Even though when we see it exploding, it's exploding in the size of a sun, but it's not only doing that, it's also like blowing up all reality at the same time. It's several explosions at once, and kind of seems as though it's just for the sake of the plot. Huh? Something that's just for the sake of the plot? Never heard of that before. I'm sorry, people, it's early in the morning, but I don't really think about it until I actually start talking about it. I write stuff down, but then it's like this door in my head. I write things, and then I don't think about it, but then when I actually think about it, now it doesn't even make any more fucking sense, because it's like, well, if you can send time regeneration energy through a crack, not even the one which is below the Doctor a couple of 30 feet, you have to close that one, open it back up, and shoot some out across space for a big CGI ending. You cannot send through, not even a fucking robot. You know, Stargate people are actually more intelligent than you. To you, the way that you see what's on the other side of a crack, which you could potentially travel through, you don't send a message that just permeates everything on the other side, asking something, potentially raising awareness to things which may or may not like you. It's just, you know, send a little robot through, anything. Matt Smith fucking reached into that with his hand. It's really funny because I never mentioned it in my other video and I always wanted to get back to it, but a really funny thing was, so Rory, he basically, like, he gets shot, doesn't he? He gets shot by the weird gas stuff by the Silurian people with the crappy guns. Like, everything about them is amazing, but the guns are so gay looking it ruins everything else about the fictional underground lizard reptilian people that live below the Earth's crust. Fictional reptilians. He is zapped by those people, and then he's just near a crack, and he just gets sucked into it. Like, he's just like, come on, come in here, you die a lot, don't you? And then he never even exists, right? But then, like, after that, doesn't the Doctor basically just, like, he takes out like a little, he takes out like a handkerchief, and just puts it around his hand, and just reaches into the crack, and then pulls out a broken bit of fucking, just a charred TARDIS, and he's fine. That was a real fuck you to Rory right there. It's like, bye, Rory. But in this, it's like, oh no, we gotta send a message through so we can bring the Doctor to the other side so he can save us. We're not gonna save ourselves, because even us, the Time Lord race, the race who fucking fought in the Time War for just years and years and years, we need to be saved by the Doctor, because the Doctor is God even to us, even though in the fucking couple of episodes, well, not even couple of episodes, the previous episode, there's no elapsing of time here. It's just the next episode, you know. just resolve what was fucking set up in the last episode. It's just, you know, completely inept fucking Time Lords. Why even bring them back if they can't save themselves by this point? It's stupid. They couldn't save themselves by the very simple thing that the Doctor was doing. Oh, it'll take hundreds of years of calculations. Oh well, can't do it then. We don't have time machines. We haven't existed for 1 billion years up to this point. And it's all just a case of the writing basically makes the people, the characters, the places, whatever, be whatever it is they need to be for the situation that they're in. And that's a case of Stephen Moffat being a dick with it, because it wouldn't have to be like that if you had someone writing decent plots and stuff for it. Yeah, everything about Doctor Who is pretty much fantastic other than the plots now, whereas before it used to be the complete reverse. Almost everything used to be crap about it other than the plots, which is why people fucking loved it, you know. Well, the characters were good, you know, the casting and stuff. But just the production of it was never that great, was it? Even the 1996 TV movie, what was that meant to be like they tried to revitalize it. That fucking failed, didn't it? Because it took all the way until 2005 for it to come back without any reference to that fucking film. But now, it's just Stephen Moffat and writing, and don't really pay much mind to it. So, here's the thing, it's just, you know, oh, it's a kids show. Yes, it's a kids show that's simultaneously got churches where you walk around naked in, and it's got references to foreplay, and you know, you've got like sex imagery, quite heavy sex imagery in this episode. We'll get to that, but it's just, I haven't even fucking gotten into it. It's just, this episode is just so, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, why? I understand why, but everything that I'm saying is good because everything that I'm saying about it is true. It is true. It's just, and I'm smiling. I'm not that pissed off about it. Even though I am pissed off, I'm just smiling about it because it's just expected now, you know. And for anyone that's upset about Doctor Who dying, just get over it and move on and understand that your own imagination is far superior to anything that you'll basically ever see on TV. And if you could apply that imagination and creativity to the world, and then, you know, maybe critically analyze that, and then maybe find the plot holes in the systems in the world, you might just find some things and actually change everything for the better. But never mind, and just for God's sake, whatever you do, don't believe a fucking word that Russell Brand ever says. He's a liar. Anyway, so, that being said, we're still going to have a big ramble about it, because we're all children at heart, and we should never lose the child heartness, even though Moffat has very much tried to kill it. He's tried to stab it over and over again, because he likes to stab children. And he is doing this episode, and we're watching it, and it's not good. Well, I'm watching it, and it's not good, because I've written fucking pages and pages of crap about it. So here we are. The broken bit of Dalek, yes, we've got handles, he's saying that everyone else has shown up there, so yes, Time Lord signal. Bit of a bad plot point, because when it got mentioned, it's just like, right, yes, it's that thing again, is it? Fair enough. So all the ships are there, and here's the thing, what is it with Moffat basically not being content with just having one pretty decently fucking thought out villain? The Papal Mainframe seemed to be the obvious slot for that, but then you just have to bring every fucking Doctor Who villain, it seems. You know, they're all here. Who the fuck are they're not called pterodactyls, but the something dactyls. That was weird. Never heard of those people, but The thing is that even though you see stuff like Silurian ships, and they even talk about the Slitheen being there, even though the Slitheen aren't a fucking species, they're actually it's a family name. You know, he could have just called them a Slitheen because that's how he knew them, but they're actually, you know, he only called them Slitheen literally because if anyone has known Slitheen, they know them as Slitheen, not Raxacorica Valapatorians, which is what they actually are called, which is, you know, just, ooh, that's bad, you know, ooh, I'm calling you out on it, Stephen. I'm calling you out on your own bullshit because you claim to be the ultimate Doctor Who fan, but you can't even seem to stay within the continuity of your own fucking show. It's just because you don't care about it. You probably writes these things on a fucking weekend just before they're due in. Just doesn't give a crap anymore, and then spouts some bullshit at a camera where he's smiling slightly, talking about how they always wanted to do something with the Doctor. Well, we always wanted to fuck up the Doctor, so that's what we're going to do this week. The thing with the Dalek ship. So now we just don't even see the rejuvenated Daleks that were pushed to the back and given a glossy paint finish in Asylum of the Daleks. No, now they just look exactly as they do before. We should just basically not even remember that they rejuvenated at some point. Now they're just here. It's not like they're you know, like they're scattered and divided, even though they seem to be destroyed quite well twice by the Doctor in Matt Smith's run of the series. Until now, they're just back, and they're amazing, despite the fact that they'd forgotten the Doctor. They show up here just because they're interested and afraid at the same time by the signal, because everyone doesn't know that it's Doctor Who at this minute, despite the fact that it was a big plot line in just the series before, that he was removing himself from the timeline. He was going across perpetually, like it was mentioned almost every episode, that he was trying to go across various places and remove knowledge of his existence. There was even a little short episode, I remember it, basically, where he says he managed to learn a trick from the silence, where basically, if he gets looked at, someone they don't remember him, which would be interesting to know how he managed to do that. What the fuck? Because that is negated here, but never mind. So he's erasing himself from all over the place, but when they find out that it is Doctor Who, they're all like, oh! And they remember the Time Lords, even though the Time Lords and the Time War seems to have been forgotten and have fallen into legend, but now they know that they're actually real. Everyone just knows, because that's what the plot demands for. We're getting rid of ourselves, again. We always do that. I always do that. I am sorry. Handles. Yeah, funny, whatever. I mean, you said he got that at a market, but then there's other Cybermen that he walks into the ship to, and you know, they're there because he's just walking on there, and he's like, this time we'll take the TARDIS. And it's like, so you hear a message throughout all of time and space, but you just come to this point because everyone's showing up at this particular point, because God forbid anyone could just go to the beginning of time or any other time frame when everyone isn't all gathered there. You can't tell me that they've gathered there and they're all just there across all of time and space. Isn't all of time and space essentially 100 trillion years? You telling me they're all there for just all 100 trillion years of it? Planets and solar systems don't last that long. Neither do galaxies. So just... we get to a later thing, I suppose, but the crack in time, it would exist across more than just this planet. So them coming to this place anyway is completely pointless. And it being in the fucking bell tower of a town called Christmas is extremely pointless. It's ridiculous how fucking pointless that is. Oh, it's because it's Christmas. That's why. Despite the fact that later on they just closed that one. Psh! Oh, so we need you to be the Crispus Tower that you spent probably more than 800 years defending, and all the generations of families having to basically just exist through huge amounts of colossal warfare from almost every species in the universe, and then Daleks, and you just could snap that crack shut and open it up somewhere else. Well done, Time Lord. I can see why no one wanted you to come back. You basically just think, oh, fuck this little town called Crispus. We're just gonna bring every species in the universe down upon their heads and just let them deal with it for fucking ages. Even though we know that what's going on the other side, because we're listening in. Stephen Moffat hates towns of people. Oh, that's terrible. That's just so bad. So anyway, really though, I just gotta stop laughing because it's right. Oh, come on, we've still got lots of shit to do. Okay. Oh, that's terrible though. That's really bad. That's very cruel. You're beginning to wonder. You're beginning to understand why the Doctor actually fucked off to begin with. If these were the kind of people that he had to be around to begin with, just fuck this planet. I'm stealing one of your awesome time machines and doing my own shit. I'm gonna be good. Right. So he's like, basically, yeah, we're gonna take the TARDIS and this time and put it on a ship. So there's a signal coming along, beaming across all the universe. Everyone's coming there. Everyone else is afraid, and you don't just take your TARDIS. Your TARDIS is a basic gigantic shield, and you don't want to beam that on basically anywhere, which is what it is designed to do essentially. And you want to beam through there with like a transport, and just declare yourself and not even understand that it's a deadly ship that you're on. But he's like, every ship I go on, they just shoot at me. And it's like, well, you are the Doctor. Not many people do really seem to like you, it seems, even though you have just been erasing your history. But so everyone's shooting at him, but not his TARDIS. Is it just because they're like, oh, we may as well not even fucking bother shooting at the TARDIS? But here's the thing, so they're all gonna shoot him, just, yeah, blah blah blah, we're gonna shoot him now. But later on, when it's a major plot point, we're gonna be afraid of shooting him. For no other reason than it's a plot point. Never mind. Yep. The Cybermen are there, so that's all we got to do. Is basically, for villains, is just introduce Daleks and Cybermen. There is not one other species in this episode other than 2 of Strax. I defy you to find any other aliens in this episode except those ones. And the Weeping Angels, but they're already there, and they're only mentioned essentially once, and then thrown away, and you never see them again, which is fine, because they don't matter, do they? You know, whatever. So this isn't just that, you know, all of the enemies are there, it's just, we're going to say that all the enemies are there on paper, and we're going to do some CGI of various stock ships that we've got in like our footage bank. Because if you look in the background, that you've got the Silurian big ball ship that spurs out from the middle and spins around. You've got like 2 or 3 of them. And you got the Dalek ships, you got Cyberman ships, and it's all just stock shit. You know, none of these places are really realised. You don't see any previous people who have been in the 3 series before come back. You know, they didn't even do a kind of good man goes to war type thing where the Doctor would recruit some of his friends, or some of his friends would fucking show up. You think River Song would want to show up if this is the fucking Doctor's ultimate end, which she seems to know about because she was in the library recording version of her in the TARDIS, which, you know, was in the future and was a decent way of including River as, you know, the library recording, because when you got to this bit, you could have explained how she ended up there. No, you're just gonna not even mention River at this point. We're just gonna fucking forget about River. We're not gonna acknowledge the point that if Clara were a young River, all of this would have made sense, and it would have basically been fucking amazing. But nope. Or even have River be various generations of people, which was almost fucking hinted at to the point where it was a bit obscene in this episode. In Tasha Lem. You know what I'm talking about. But let's get on to it. Yeah, you get a phone call, so inevitably this is where we have to have Clara fucking come into it, because Clara! And now, because the plot demands it, she's a kind of, what's the word? Not confident character. She doesn't have much self-confidence in this episode, it fucking seems. At least when she's around her family, so she's always like, you know, my mum always used to say, it isn't the souffle, it's the recipe, and she's all quirky, and, you know, my mum said this and shit like that. But when we do actually see her family, because her mum died, right? Didn't her mum die? And, her mum was dead. In one incarnation of her, because let's not forget she did jump into a time stream, which is what this is meant to be leading to. This is meant to have happened before she's done this. Remember that, because it'll be significant. You know what I'm talking about, but I'll get to it later on. So now she's just in some council flats, you know, in a big council flat estate, because she's got a northern accent, so obviously she lives in council flat or something like that, because why the fuck not, even though she was a nanny in a house. But in the episode later on, she admits, because of the truth field, that she's a school teacher. So, nice change of career that takes a long time to do, and staying exactly the same. It's almost as if someone's just overlaid some plot lines on you. Yeah, here's your plot lines for this week. Forget about them next week. Just throw them out like yesterday's jam. It's just, that's what her character is. It's really upsetting. And it's just an indication to you of how Doctor Who has essentially died. Because when the companion doesn't really have any substance to her, that's when you know the show's going downhill, because the companion is meant to be the bridge between us and the audience, and the problem is that usually that can be done in a very artful way, but this is as though she's just essentially a signpost pointing bridge to the plot. You know, that's all she is. It's not like a lovely embroidered archway, you know, that leads you down certain ways, and it's got passages that you can explore and stuff in itself as a bridge. No, she's just an arrow that goes, this is the way the plot is going. That's her character. You know, this whole fascination that she has with the Doctor, like she fancying him, and then, you know, kind of being confident, but then in this episode not being confident, and then being the Doctor's confidant. It's all just tacked on. You know, it's not developed, we don't see why it's happening. The Doctor obviously doesn't fucking reciprocate any of this love that she seems to show for her in the idea of being in love with her. He sees her as a child, like he's seen everyone else as a child, except River. You know? Fuck's sake, man. You just needed to have River continue into it, and then get her the fucking rid of, but in a proper decent way. Then you could have a good couple of series where the Doctor is in love with a companion for a while, and then you can change it up back to having a companion who doesn't know him, has her own quirks, her own ideas, business as usual. But no, we've got to have this fucking companion. So now she's got 3 family members, it seems. One is Gran, one is Dad, the other one is Linda. It's noted by the end of the film. The episode. And it's... Who is Linda? Is Linda the dad's... Is she like Clara's stepmother? She's a very bad character. She's very insufferable. I don't like that. She's blue. But so Clara is very upset about cooking Christmas dinner quickly. She's having trouble with it because she's all worried, and she's invented a boyfriend, which if you wanted to give her an arc, an edge to her character, we could have seen that, and she, because she is in love with the Doctor, basically refers to him as her boyfriend, to her family, because she has this connection with him, but that's not developed and that's not established at all. She basically just says, I need you to be my boyfriend because kind of that's what I want you to be and the plot demands for it. So we can have a quirky little bit of shit with her family just so we can literally introduce Clara back into the plot, because why is Clara not with the Doctor at this minute? Why is she back home cooking Christmas dinner in that year? So did he drop her off for Christmas? And now she's back at Christmas, and the Doctor's like, okay, I'll leave you here. And then he discovers the signal, and then he's like, oh shit, I better go over there. And the signal has only just been discovered. It's like you do this monologue saying that the signal has been projected across all time and space, but has only just now been detected by the Doctor, the Time Lords, anyone, just only now, when the plot demands for it. Oh, here's this gigantic thing that's permeating all the space and time in the universe that we've just introduced just now, just for this episode, so we can do all this kind of crap. My opinion, they should have regenerated Matt Smith in the last episode, whether or not that had to be the 50th anniversary, but for Peter Capaldi, the episode would have been either him bringing back Gallifrey or dealing with Gallifrey returning, and Matt Smith's whole thing should have just been the Time War and dealing with something to bring back Gallifrey, basically. His events with sorting out the Time War in his idea of he being a horrible person during it should have ended with Matt, and then it should have ended with Gallifrey, coming back. But Matt should have regenerated at the end of that and should have sent himself off, happy because he's resolved shit. But we've got to, instead, we've got to have this. It feels like an in-between episode, because Gallifrey, it's established that it can come back in the last episode, and then it's addressed that it basically will come back in this episode, but then it won't be until either the next episode or the next series when it will come back. So this episode feels like an extra episode in between it being established that it can come back and it coming back. It's like, oh, now it can come back because we saved it. And now, here's me basically trying to save it for the entire episode, but then getting more life as a result. And now it's going to come back. Why did it never just fucking come back? It should have just been that thing, if you're going to do it. But I don't know. I'm tired of trying to guess where the fuck it's going or what they're gonna do. And I've been rambling on about it. I keep doing that, so get shot out. Dinner, Christmas dinner, and here's the thing about Clara. Clara seems to be blissfully unaware of caring about the Doctor's situation. You know, she seems to just be like, me. She's like, oh, I've made up this horrible situation, and for some reason I give a shit about the peer pressure of my gran, who is a bit demented, and then my dad, who doesn't say a fucking thing really, and then this bitch woman who isn't my mother because my mother died. I'm really invested in that whole stuff, despite the fact that I'm travelling around with this time-travelling Superman, and I've seen insane amounts of stuff. I'm suddenly panicking because now I've accidentally made up a boyfriend to my immediate kind of family who haven't been introduced up until this point. But the thing is, if this is what her immediate family is, I'm fucking glad they were never introduced up until this point, because if this is what we were going to see of them, then I would fucking prefer that we never were to see them again. It's like if you introduced Martha's mother in whatever episode it was, and it would have been nice if that was the only episode you saw her, but no, she had to be like an integral plot with fucking up the Doctor's, plans, essentially. Betraying him. But this is just, they're just fucking annoying, and they're just this fucking obstacle for the episode. The family of the companion shouldn't really be the obstacle, really. They're an obstacle a bit in Series 3, but that was a good thing. Because, like I say, at least the mother was annoying, but at least the whole thing that she was being annoying for had a reason. There was a plot point. She was worried about Martha because she knew about the fucking travelling with the Doctor, kind of, because she was being manipulated behind the scenes by Mr. Saxon, who turned out to be the Master, who was doing this whole master plot. Well done. Interconnection. Good writing. This is just, oh, now I live in a council fucking flat, and now I suddenly give a shit about the peer pressure of my immediate family because of a situation that I put myself in. Why didn't you could just say he couldn't make it. He couldn't make it. Oh no, I've got to ring up the Doctor and got him to come across time and space and pretend to be my boyfriend, which is probably going to go wrong in some way, because I don't know, maybe he's just going to show up naked. So, yes, we get to that. Yes, fair enough. Yeah, I've fucking gone all the way down to the bottom of this page now. You see, haven't just been talking about stuff and haven't even gotten onto my pages. Been accidentally talking about what I've been writing down. This is all just to help me remember. My mind does wander. Where are we? Yeah, well, he gets the phone call from the outside of the TARDIS, and he's like, I should patch that back through, and there's a nice little thing with him and handles. That's amusing, a nice little bit of doctory stuff. He's like, I need to patch that back through, but the thing is, I did say this before, it's like, why haven't you got something connected inside the TARDIS and then outside as well? Why did you connect one and then disconnect the other? And there's nothing on the TARDIS console that can just be a communication screen, like basically the scanner screen, when it was like a communication screen, when weren't you talking to the other Doctors in like the 3 in the Day of the Doctor? Weren't you doing that? I don't fucking know. Anyway, so I'm just, the continuity between the Day of the Doctor and this one is just, we're picking up from this random moment of time, are we? The Handles is like, why are you here? And the Doctor's like, I'm OCD. What's their excuse? And it's like, well, he's OCD. Well, he is a bit, but the thing is, if there was a giant signal across all space and time, then that's exactly what the Doctor wants to come to. The problem is, so does everyone else, it seems. Well, everyone else also seems to have time travel technology now, because it's never established when this fucking is actually happening, because if you establish when it's happening, you then have to work around that whole idea of when it's happened. It's much easier to just say to just not say when it's happened. That way you don't actually have to address it. Sneaky way of getting around, but it's also bullshit, because then it throws up all the ideas of just, when is this in his timeline? How long after Day of the Doctor was this? Why does the Doctor seem kind of confused about this is what's happening? Because at the end of Day of the Doctor, it's also confusing as well, because he says to Tennant, you go to Trenzalore, you're going to end up there, you're going to die there, that's where we end up. That's where we're going. But then at the second ending bit, after that, you have that shot where they're walking around in the dry ice mist. You've got the horribly CGI other Doctors there, and he says, now I know where I'm going, because he's doing some bullshit Clara speech talk thing. He says, now I know where I'm going home. And it's like, well, are you going home, or are you going to Trenzalore to your death? Okay. So he doesn't really know where he's going. Are you going to Trenzalore? Are you going to... Oh, I don't know. Yes, classic Matt Smith with the telephone. Clara, boyfriend, and the Doctor's just like, ding dong, I'm your boyfriend, this is cool, I'm a bit rusty, I'll have to look up a manual. And it's like, what? Because that's a sex reference. You don't tell me that it's not a sex reference, but you look up a manual of how to be a boyfriend. Well, the main thing the boyfriend does is have sex with the girlfriend and vice versa, yes? And she's a young... she's a young human female of breeding age, so... And have they even had sex before this point? We don't even know. Could have been, potentially. Because the Doctor could have tapped that in the various incarnations of her that he met, that died, that were just like throwaway incarnations of her. Clones, if you like. Clara clones. Clonra. Anyway, he could have tapped that, and then she just wouldn't have remembered, because it's just a clone. But yeah, boyfriend, I need to look up a manual, so he needs to have a look up a diagram of the female genitalia and be like, okay, right, this goes here, doesn't it? Because he's wacky, and I don't like this episode a bit because he makes him too fucking wacky. Matt Smith's Doctor was wacky, but he was also interesting and serious at the same time, and sometimes he did wacky stuff for a reason. Also in the way that that David Tennant did, he would sometimes fuck about, but then turn it around because he's actually doing something smart, I like that. But he's just being wacky because he doesn't realise, because he's just being a mad old fool, which is what he is. But this is before he even spends hundreds more years being a mad old fool, and it's just, pick a way, Stephen, and fucking go with it. It's just, I hate this whole, we always have to be light, but then we do dark shit immediately after, and then we're trying to mix the two and it doesn't work. It's Masonic black and white squares again, Stephen. I know you might be old, but just stop it, okay? Just stop. Oh, right. So, yes. She's like, be my boyfriend. She explains that whole thing. He says he needs to look up a manual, which would indicate sex. Okay? Sex. Which the Doctor seems to be unawares of. So... River. Mother fucking River. You were never tapping that at any point during the existence of her at all. And you're telling me that her being the perfect psychopath and you marrying her, usually the act of marriage usually requires consummation, yes? That bitch would have fucking rocked your world. I'm surprised that you didn't come out looking like a different person, because the amount of fucking that she has been doing with you has just caused you to regenerate. That would have been a good way to regenerate the Doctor. Finally they get married, and at the end they go into his bedroom. They go in there, you hear banging and stuff like that, maybe some laser blasts, and then him going, ow, ow, then you hear a Gold shoots from behind the door. He comes back out and he's a different person. He's like, okay, stop. What are we doing? Who are we again? But that's enough. I've forgotten everything else, but I know I don't want any more of that. And she's like, oh, hello, sweetie, come back. And he's like, no. And that's why he had to lock her in prison, because she was fucking him to death. No. But he doesn't even remember sex now, but he's just got to say a throwaway line about looking at a manual, because Stephen wants to throw in lots of weird sex imagery in this episode for no other reason than I think that he's a creepy fucking son of a bitch. So let's go on. No. Go away, piece of paper. Yeah, Clara's cooking the Christmas dinner. Parent pressure. She invented the BF, so in a comparison to Amy Pond, who had an imaginary friend who was the Doctor, Clara now has an imaginary boyfriend who will be the Doctor. So, also, by the end of this episode, she should be uninvented, but we'll get to that. Yes, Matt makes some reference to an android boyfriend. It's like you just turn it off, or I'd like to see that episode. He accidentally creates what he thinks is going to be a robot companion, like a male robot companion. He's just his mate. He's like, I want you to be my mate. And then he goes, program accepted, love me. And he's like, no, I'm a friend, as in friend, I want it to be your friend. It's like, friend, penetrate, friend, and he's like, no, and he ends up having to kick out of the TARDIS door to space, and it's just like, love me, into a black hole. And I just watched that episode. It was great. Yes, new ship, should have taken the TARDIS, why you didn't to begin with, I don't know why. Yes, in the bit where he's walking into the Cybermen place, you can tell very clearly that Matt Smith is wearing a wig. It is referenced later, but at that point in the episode I was like, yeah, you can tell it's a wig, because you see how his fringe fucking sticks out in the middle and bounces? His hair never ever used to do that in the original, like, 11th Hour kind of stuff. Well, 11th Hour is a bit more mullety. It's like fluffy at the back, and he actually had eyebrows. If you watch the 11th Hour, Matt Smith actually has eyebrows in that one episode, and then ever after that he just doesn't. It's kind of strange. It's almost as if he got cloned. Never mind. So yeah, you can tell he's wearing a wig. That's funny. You can't tell that ship is a Cyberman ship, given its hull markings. It doesn't even scan all the ships out there. It's just, put me on a random fucking ship. You know, it never always turns out to be my worst enemies, but fine. And then he's on, so yeah, this is the thing I was saying about Clara. She doesn't have any compassion for the Doctor's plight, essentially, even though she's jizzing over him all the time. Because she's like, oh, I have an issue with my Christmas turkey and the fact that I invented a boyfriend to my peer-pressuring fucking family. And he's like, I'm getting shot at by Cybermen, who you had experience with, who, you recall, the future human race had to destroy an entire galaxy. An entire fucking galaxy to get rid of, right? And you're like, can't we do both? I can't really imagine Billy or Martha or Donna or really even Amy basically being on the phone to the Doctor going, oh, can't you just fight the Daleks and all that kind of stuff and come and do this shit with me, you know? River would have the right to say that. River is always like, what kind of time do you call this? And funny stuff like that. It'd be funny if she said stuff like, oh, can't you shoot the Daleks and the Cybermen and come and help me with this thing? I know you're good enough to do that, but this is just, it's like, oh, you know what? Just for that, Clara, I'm gonna go back in time and kill your mum. Oh! Oh! So that's why she's dead. You know? I thought that would be funny, because it turns out in the end that basically Rose gets her dad back. Whereas at the end of Clara's fucking tenure with, well, not the Doctor, but with Matt Smith's Doctor, it's like, he doesn't even give a shit about her. It's really funny. And he flaunts himself naked to her family. You know, he doesn't pay her any respect because she sucks. And secretly, Stephen Moffat knows it. So it's at that point where we have to go to the fucking horrific intro. Hate that. Is it changed slightly? Does it have a different filter or shit on it? I can't even tell, because every single time I watch it I just want to throw up because there's so much crap on the screen. I just want to see some TARDIS flying through the vortex action, but now I'm watching the TARDIS flying through just the horrendous shitstorm that is now on screen, that now obviously has been reworked in a way to make it work for 3D. That was the whole reason why they invigorated, or one of the reasons. Yeah, they got this crap just floating about on the screen so that people with fucking 3D televisions and no good taste can sit there laughing at all the extra little bit of dimension that they fucking get to brainwash themselves further in their fucking fucked up society in which they live. Sorry. I got a bit carried away there. Anyway. But you just gotta ruin our beloved title sequence for the sake of just a bit of 3D. And I don't know. So the Doctor appears outside the Council of State bit, so he has to run all the way downstairs. You know, was a time when the Doctor would just show up, like in the living room or something like that. But for Clara, he's got to make her run all the way downstairs and come out. Bitch stays in prime fucking, you know, top condition, health-wise. You know, she's not got a single bit of fat on her. I wonder why. But yes, it's just, you know, she never does actually take a bite of that turkey. Salad dressing is my saving grace. Just on its own, without turkey. Because God knows they probably put the pressure on Jenna to keep it under a couple, keep it under a certain weightage for the role. Hey. That's probably why they kicked Donna out after one season. They probably called her Donna Kebab. So, Billy kept on going on about chips. They booted her off. But he's there. They're in the TARDIS, and he's naked. Okay, so sex symbology a bit number 2. Yeah. It's okay to spread it out. It's okay to spread things. Not that way, Stephen. Just so he's naked, and she's like, Doctor, why are you naked? And she's awkward, but also fancies him at the same time. If you recall in the 11th hour how Amy Pond essentially stares him the fuck down as he changes clothes. She didn't give a shit. She's like, I met you when I was 8 years old, and now my vagina is getting a bit moist over you, so I'm just gonna watch you. Whereas Clara, it's like, I fancy him a bit later in this episode, but when he's naked, I'm not gonna be like, well, hey, honey. I'm gonna be like, Doctor, why are you awkward? Why are you naked? Because I suppose she knows that it's not a regular thing for him, even though he's a time-traveling alien, so really nothing is regular for him. And she did say that she wanted him to be his boyfriend, her boyfriend, so I thought for one second he was like, okay, we're going to do the boyfriend-girlfriend thing right now. Now, right, are we? And she's like, no, I just need you to stand in for the turkey. That could have been a funny joke, even though that would have meant that the Doctor was literally expecting sex off of a companion because she said something like that. Which is not the way that you want to take the Doctor. Just, the Doctor isn't a sexual being, at least anymore. And now that he's Peter Capaldi, you definitely shouldn't be. At least with no one else other than River. Because now they're both like 50. It was a bit weird with Matt and River before, but it worked. Because Matt pulled off being older than he actually was. Peter Capaldi looks like a strangulated chicken. It's fitting for him to be with an older lass. Because God forbid Clara should still fancy him now. Yeah, he's naked, and she says some bullshit, and he's like, oh, I'm naked because you can't be wearing your clothes when you go to church, which is not an appropriate joke to be making, Stephen, given the amount of crap that the Vatican has been getting for soliciting sex with underage fucking children. Which I have to assume you kind of know about, don't you, Stephen? And are in a way referencing. But probably referencing it in the bad way, as if you enjoy it. I don't enjoy it though. I don't enjoy that. And you can't go to church wearing your clothes. God knows how many people who have lost faith in God as a result of this. How many people who are grown up now who have been molested by the church, and now basically that's their memory of it. You basically summed up their memory of what the church was like for them as a child. Oh, you can't be wearing clothes when you go to church because Father Priest O'Reilly, he's going to be raping me up the arse. It's regular as clockwork with all of his priest buddies, and the Pope isn't going to do anything because he fucking is in on it. That's why we had to get a new one, because there was too many allegations coming out about the fact that he was hiding it. Anyway, back to Doctor Who. Stephen, after that, well, yeah, so at least he just did that. I have written down here, at least he didn't say, I am going to ram you now, Clara, till you are bigger on the inside. As a result of mistaking them being in a relationship, that would have been. I could have done with that then. But so then he mind control MK visuals her to basically fuck around with her visual cortex to make it seem as though he's actually wearing clothes. So God forbid that technology should ever actually be developed and implemented on people now, thus fooling them with things. Anyway, sorry, I've got a mad tick in my face. It doesn't mean anything. Walked naked up the council flats. Yes. Because does he manifest in his TARDIS into the house? I don't think he does. I think they just walk from that place up the council flats into his house, into her house, while he's naked. I don't care if you're the Doctor or not. If you do that, you get seen in council flats, you get fucking beatings, man. You would get beatings. It's just, it's not very good for realism, Stephen. Oh god, the Doctor actually slaps Clara on the arse. She's like, this is my boyfriend, and then he actually slaps her on the arse, and she's like, woo! She actually enjoyed it secretly. It just made her panties that much more moist. But it's just, I don't think the Doctor should be slapping arses. It was funny when Millie, the old woman in The End of Time, was pinching David Tennant's arse, and he's like, is that your hand, Millie? Because that's funny. I like that. But he's like, yes, I am like a more than 1,000 years old man, and I just look young, a bit Twilight Edward-esque, and I'm pretending to be your daughter's boyfriend or something. Slap on the ass. Ha! Stop making Matt Smith's 11th incarnation of the Doctor into a creepy pedophile fuck, Stephen. Art imitates life quite a lot in your show. So if you've got someone who is your idolised hero, who you are trying to pretend to be and make yourself into the show, and then this person specifically comes off as a creepy pedophile fuck, what does that say about you? What's that, Stephen? Is there something really cool about scaring children? That's cool. So yes, she's like, they're looking at the turkey and he's like, do you think it's done? No, it's fucked. And, she's like, app it. So, Apple iPods, guys, Apple iPhones, get the iPhone apps, product placement, sneaky product placement, but product placement, app it. It doesn't do turkey, nothing does turkey. So, turkey and wood are the two universal things that cannot be done by a sonic screwdriver. It's just, I don't know what it is. Turkeys and wood. If you were to fucking make a giant fucking empire built out of turkeys and wood, the Doctor would have no effect on you. You would be able to span across the stars using turkeys and wood. Yeah. Turkey wood and wooden turkeys. Doctor Who, Invasion of the Wooden Turkeys. Yeah. So, it's like, you need a time machine, and this is another part of his wacky things. It's like, you would need a time machine for that. Looking at you kind of stupidly, forgetting the very obvious fact that I have a time machine, own a time machine, and have in fact just come from a time machine. Oh wait, yes, I got a time machine, and he's like, oh yes. You can't, and I like this bit because he comes in, she's like, you can't keep doing this with the TARDIS. It's like, I wish we saw more of that. I wish we saw her doing that all the time with the Doctor, and then he comes in and he's literally like, you can't keep doing this with the TARDIS. He just has to list off a whole bunch of stuff and set up that history of that joke in that episode right there and then, which is what Stephen Moffat does. He doesn't set stuff up. Or if he does, it drags it out for so ages. But anything like this, he'll basically mention and make it so that it's like it's just been a long continuous thing of the show, like the sonic screwdriver thing. Sonic screwdrivers aren't different now; they're all just the same thing underneath in the software. It just gets updated basically all of the time, regardless of if it gets destroyed or something like that. When you get a new one, it's the same software, and it just uses the exact same stuff that it did before it gets destroyed. And that just gets mentioned off of the side. And there you go. That's how Stephen Moffat works. But I like it when he comes in, he's like, you can't keep using the TARDIS for this kind of stuff, but then he says basically just learn how to use Netflix. So, product placement number 2, learn how to use Netflix, people. It's almost as bad as when we saw the Doctor using a Wii in fucking The Power of 3. Using a Wii in The Power of 3, yay. Yeah. Doctor, BBC, Jimmy Savile. So, Stephen Moffat. Connections. I don't know, I just hate it sometimes when the Doctor Who has to be used as a propaganda a British propaganda vehicle. It was always invented basically as that, but now it's permeated through the show a bit more sometimes, to the point where we've got to have Doctor Who BBC flowing through the fucking time vortex, or the shitstorm rather. Actually, that's quite apt now. We should just get rid of the Doctor Who logo and just have BBC flying through the shitstorm that is the new TARDIS intro. Time Vortex intro. That would be good. That'd work. Well, I could just have Stephen Moffat's name flying through as well. Stephen Moffat, BBC. Da-da. Really cool. Yes. So they put the turkey in the bit below the TARDIS console thing, so it can absorb energy from the time winds and either cook or reverse itself in time and become alive again or some shit like that. You lift up the flap and it's just like a very rickety flap, it seems. Just let it go, just slangs back down. So if you just, that shit, when the TARDIS is rumbling around, that stuff obviously doesn't just flap open. Do you know why? Because it's just a set. And the set is whatever it needs to be. It isn't me, or as the TARDIS expanded in size a bit. It seemed smaller and more compact to begin with, and now it seems to have expanded. There seems to be more walking space. I don't know if they've made it bigger or just... but there was plenty of space in Matt's original TARDIS. You know, it was wonderful and colourful. You had the lovely glass floorage, the weird, what the fuck are they, wet pools underneath. You had the nice little anal bead massager thing for this TARDIS centre core. In this, I didn't realise until this fucking episode, it's got a tiny, pathetic pencil dick type thing that comes right down in the middle. It just goes psss, psss, like that. It's so minute. I didn't even see that was there in the original when I first fucking saw the original TARDIS interior. I thought there was just a spinny shit at the top, and the middle bit was just like. I didn't even know there was something in the middle that went up and down. But now that I do see it, I wish that I didn't see it, because it does just look like a little tiny pencil dick coming down the thing. That centre bit should be the main bit that articulates when the TARDIS is in motion. You shouldn't have some weird bullshit 3-disc spinny crap that makes it look like a helicopter, as stated in the 5-ish Doctors. You just have that whole middle bit properly going psh, psh, psh. In the original fucking series, I'm not talking about the 2005, I'm talking about way back when with the original. It used to just be a weird diamond hexagon thing that would just get pushed up and down by some little piston thing that was literally beneath it. You felt as though you could just lift that thing out of the centre and just be like, kick it over there. Because it was just a bit of a prop. But it was still cool, and we always knew that shit was going down when that thing was going up and down. With this new TARDIS, it's like, oh, there's the bits spinning at the top, but that can mean anything. And there's all this Gallifreyan writing, which does and doesn't mean anything simultaneously. So, but yeah, it's got a weird movie up and down thing. It's like a little pencil dick. It's pathetic, so... well done. Yeah, Turkey time wins. That's fun. So now we've got to go to the. Do we have to go to the future now? After we whack the turkey in for the Christmas dinner, we've now got to go back to the fucking wherever it is in space. So what will be revealed as Trenzalore very soon, and the deal with this. What's going to be more than 3. We don't know the next couple of 100 years, which Matt Smith experiences, but we know the first 300. So it's definitely more than 300 by a good couple of hundred, it seems. We're just gonna skip from this Christmas turkey endeavour to doing that. That's a very strange clash there. And here's the thing, is that Christmas episodes now are no longer about something to do with Christmas. It just happens to be set at Christmas, or they just happen to be in a town. Well, that's called Christmas. But at the same time, it's also going to be Christmas in Clara's time. So it's simultaneously Christmas in Clara's time, but then they're also in a town which looks like it's at Christmas, but it's called Christmas, for no other reason than it's Christmas. Does that seem right to you? So he's scanning the planet, and then this is where Handles says that the planet, like He says that the signal origin planet is Gallifrey. So he gets around not saying that that planet is Trenzalore. He says that the planet is Gallifrey. So for a second, I thought that, maybe Trenzalore is actually like a frozen Gallifrey, and that the way that you can actually release it is by flipping the planet around, something like that. But that idea was very soon dashed. And that would have been a better idea. There's a hidden planet that's hidden in plain sight, and it's actually a different planet that's locked in time, and maybe the whole planet that you see is actually the frozen planet underneath, and what's on top of it is just what's gathered on top of it because it's been frozen, but it's been frozen in physical space. I don't know, never mind. So this is where the Doctor gets angry for some strange reason, because he's like, no, this isn't Gallifrey. And even fucking Clara knows not to play any business with him because she doesn't move an inch, and she's like, oh, I better not move for this couple of minutes while he's angry. But the thing is that he saved it, right? And Clara's like, but didn't you save it though? I thought it worked. And pushed out. And he's like, oh, well, even if it is my home, it's not in this universe. Even if we did save it, it's not in this universe, it's somewhere else. So you just can't go outside the universe and look for what's there. Like when you did. You went outside of the universe and went to that other little planet orbiting the Big Bubble universe or whatever. So you can't just do some weird Time Lord shit and look around the outside of the universe somehow. No? Haven't even bothered trying doing that? Talking about it? Explaining it? No! Do you know why? Because that's not how Stephen Moffat operates. So yes, the Doctor is kind of pissed off for no reason, because it doesn't make sense that he's, it would make sense if this was said during, Tennant's run. Like, when he gets pissed off when Martha tells him that she saw that the, Professor Yana fella had another stopwatch like his. He gets pissed off because he knows for a fact that he's the only Time Lord, at least to his knowledge. But this is like, he just came from, in the last episode, the idea of saving Gallifrey, and before I said it's even confirmed to him when he meets the Tom Baker future Doctor potential type person that isn't ever really fucking explained to any real detail. No. Jesus Christ, I'm rambling on at this for an hour and 47 minutes. Really? And I've only gotten to the bit where the papal mainframe shows the fuck up. Oh my god. Oh my god. Ugh. It's light outside. It's 8:32 in the fucking morning. It's Christmas. It's New Year's Eve. It will be 2014 a couple of hours from now. It's just, this is what I'm doing. So let's continue. It's really funny because they look outside the door. No one else is going to shoot at them. The Cybermen aren't shooting at them. The Daleks aren't shooting at them. They're just a TARDIS floating in space. Oh, the Doctor's fucked off to his TARDIS, and well, we can't get past that for some reason. We're just going to not do anything anymore. And before they actually look outside, the reason why is because they hear what is the stock footage sound of the Titanic, the giant space Titanic that David Tennant's TARDIS crashed into in the Voyage of the Damned special episode. It's the exact same fucking noise, and it's meant to represent the ship of the papal mainframe, which is a gigantic fucking cuboid thing, church, that's not very well CGI'd, displayed. You see, it's got these 3 giant open hangar things, and I guess there's lots of stuff in there, but is it like a giant church thing on the top? He says it's a giant flying church, but okay, whatever. It's this one long shot. But are they not in space? As if we heard a gigantic barge just come into the fucking harbour, No. It's in space, where sound doesn't travel. I know Doctor Who has never paid much mind to the idea of sound travelling in space, and just threw fucking physics right out of the door in the Doctor, the Widow of the Wardrobe. Even though there's huge amounts of things that you could have used in that universe to explain that so that it wasn't fuck you physics, you just didn't. And so that it felt like fuck you physics, and it's the same thing here. It's not just, oh, there's a gigantic fucking message being broadcast across the entire fleet. Who is that from? Oh, it's the Papal mainframe. No, we've got to have this stock footage sound from Series 3? End of Series 3? Because that's when he does the Voyage of the Damned episode, is it not? Literally, the fucking thing crashes through his side. Yes, he's just been rebuilding the TARDIS because the Master cannibalized it. He forgot to leave the shields up. TARDIS, the Titanic crashed through. Cool. But it's exactly the same sound. And that's really disconcerting, because you must have known it's the same sound. You can't get away with not fucking understanding that it's the same sound. The whole reason why it is the same sound is because you've used it before. You've obviously gone, oh, well, this is one of the sounds that we have. Let's use it again. You didn't think that would piss people off, or that would throw people off in some way. I thought the fucking space Titanic was going to be out. Oh, why? So now we've got space Titanic tourism around the planet of Trenzalore to see all the mass fucking gathering of all the species in the universe that just aren't firing on each other for some unknown reason other than the plot says so. So then we see the giant face of Tasha Lem, and she's like, yes, with my nice huge amounts of mascara across my face. And yes, Tasha Lem. And they're like, okay, you need to be naked as well, because you can't go to church with your clothes on, which isn't explained, even though it would just make sense in the idea of when you go to church, you're meant to be like naked before God, or you're meant to have no kind of blockage between you and the Almighty, something like that. That's just hinted at, but it's never really said. It's just when you go to church, you've got to be naked, you know. It's either so that we can rape you, or just so we can make you feel inferior, kind of thing. Don't get it. And it's just a weird, creepy Stephen Moffat thing that Stephen Moffat likes to throw in there because he's Stephen Moffat. So also when I saw the Papal mainframe be introduced, I was like, so that's what's going to happen now, is it? We're going to have some Papal mainframe shit going on. Because the Papal mainframe was always mentioned. It was mentioned in The Good Man Goes to War. You know, they were the villain people. Or you thought that they would have been drafted in to be the villain people. Turns out they're the main villain people, and also the good guys. So, okay. They were there first, yet they've only just come to view now that the plot demands it. They go on there without clothes on, using their holographic shit. Clara keeps talking about how they are naked underneath, and she can feel it, but it's fine. You can just walk along and everything's cool. So why did you need that? The only reason I can think of why you would need it is to basically explain. It's to do the joke where Matt takes off his wig, because that's how he sneaks a key. Yeah. But that's to get the TARDIS back. And at the same time, he has his sonic screwdriver, doesn't he? Or does he take that with his TARDIS? I can't remember, but just... If they had never mentioned that you'd need to be naked and all that kind of stuff, what would have been different in that scene? They're all wearing clothes anyway, because you're obviously not going to show everyone standing there naked. You're basically just saying that they are all really actually naked, and everyone is just wearing holographic clothes. For what reason? For what actual reason? So if they're naked, does that mean the Silents are also naked as well, with the little suits and shit that they wear? even though the suits more closely match the 1960s suits that people wore in the 1960s when they were part of the Central Intelligence Agency and shit like that. So they're a bit more low-key. Now, they're fucking priests. I fucking hate that. I'm getting ahead of myself and you don't even see one for a while yet. But anyway, Tasha Lem. So we've got Tasha Lem, who is the Mother Superioress. Not the Mother Superior. She's the Mother Superioress of the fucking papal mainframe. And the papal mainframe is simultaneously a gigantic organization that guards the universe and is also a woman. It's one and the same. I'm drawing strange comparisons to Queen Elizabeth here. It's a bit worrying, because Queen Elizabeth refuses to die in more ways than you know. Bitch doesn't ever stop coming back. It's just, anyway. So, when we're there, looking at the papal mainframe, I can't help but think, what happened to the Shadow Proclamation? You know, the other peace-guarding, peacekeeping, universal organization that existed in Russell T Davies' era. They disappeared in place of the papal mainframe. Do you know why? So that we could do this. Because before, the papal mainframe was obviously not a fucking gigantic peacekeeping organization across the universe. What it was a very obvious pop at religious cultism and how it evolved into a militaristic organization that existed into the future. Yeah? They got headless monks, for fuck's sake, that cut their heads off in service of God. They basically just become headless fucking mindless robots doing whatever the commander tells them to do, because they're not getting fucking messages from God or anything like that. They just become sheep, mindless, headless, brainwashed warrior soldiers to go and do the bidding of whoever it is at the moment in time, Madame Kavarian or whoever. But now the papal mainframe is it's something like the Shadow Proclamation, keeping you safe in this life and the next. So what happened with the papal mainframe, actually? Because the papal, would indicate that it was an evolution of the Roman Catholic Church, yes? The papacy. And if that's existed into the future, then fuck. We're all fucked. No wonder everything is the way it is. It's fucked. It's gone. But, so the papal mainframe, at one point in the future, I guess everyone just decided to all believe Roman Catholicism. Hey, let's just all believe Roman Catholicism, yeah? Okay, fair enough. Well, differences aside, if only it were that easy. It would have been good, but no. Well, it would have been bad if everyone became Roman Catholics, no. You bigged them up again because you obviously pulled an idea out of the crack in time in your arse and you didn't know what to do with it or how to carry it on, so you just changed something up into something else for the sake of resolving something which you didn't know how to resolve. This is what's happened to people with the question and whether it should be asked on the fields of Trenzalore at the fall of the 11th, when silence will or will not fall. It started off as one thing, then it changed into something else, and then they added a bit more on, and then made it something else, and then they did it. They actually did it, and then they didn't do it because it actually meant something else. And it continued on. And here's where we are. So now we've got the papal mainframe, fair enough. We've got Tasha Lem, who should, in the real continuity of Doctor Who, when I say the real continuity, I mean my continuity, Tasha Lem would have been an incarnation of River Song. Because, you got River, Melody Pond, and, Mel's, and then Tasha Lem backward is Mel. And there's references to her being something like River Song, because they've got this weird history. They kind of act as though they're a bit man-wife-ish type thing. She knows how to pilot the TARDIS. He says that she's been fighting the psychopath inside her all her life. She doesn't... Well, all of her lives as well, because she died over and over again, did she? And refused to die in hundreds of years. So, when did she become the Mother Superioress?
And how long has she been the Mother Superiors? That's unquestioned. Like, that's not answered. And here's the thing: is that Tasha Lem is another girl. She's another one of Stephen Moffat's girls that you like to throw in there. Her first words when you fucking see, when she first sees Matt, is just, "Hello, babes." You know, she may as well just be like, "Hello, colloquial 20th century word phrase that doesn't have real meaning in this world here." It's just, oh, hello, babes, because now I know that you're the Doctor, and I know that we've had this long, long history where we've been very, very good friends. And I know how to pilot your TARDIS, and I know you so well, and I know how to control. I know that it's really hard to control you, but the audience doesn't. The audience doesn't know one single goddamn line of it. But this is what Steven does. Steven introduces shit right off of the bat and then expects you to believe that it's always fucking existed without any kind of payoff to it, any kind of reference to it. Madame Kavarian didn't even fucking show up as a younger incarnation of herself. You know, we didn't even see the reason why she fucking got pissed off in the first place. Perhaps she was in the Vanguard, and then her entire fleet got fucking massacred by the Daleks and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, what's the point in doing this? It's just going to go on for ages. You don't even see that. And you could have seen that if this episode were longer than an hour and 1 minute. But you don't see that, because it isn't. Because we're going to skip. We're going to skip beat to beat to beat to beat to beat in this episode. This episode never gives you a minute to fucking breathe. It's just everything is happening. Yeah. Yep, should have been River. We don't know. Yeah, the silent creatures show up because the Doctor and Tasha have gone into her room, and he's saying, "Oh yes, you can say anything in front of Clara. Well, actually, can you stand out here for a minute, because she knows me so well, even though we don't, and it's just annoying." So she stands out there, and that's just a reason for her to stand out there and see the silent, so we know how the silents work, kind of, because they haven't been established for a while, so we needed to re-establish what their abilities are, which is a bit nondescript anyway, because do you remember them, or don't you? Sometimes it's, when I look at you, when I look at them, I remember them, but when I look away from them, I forget them. But when I look back, I either do or don't remember the previous encounter with them. It seems as though the companions do, like Amy Pond did, and Clara is doing now. But the woman that Amy Pond saw get killed kind of was reacting as though she couldn't remember anything about them at all. But we'll get to the silence in a bit, because, well, there's this one bit where you see it there, it disappears, and then she's walking again, and then it's just arbitrarily crawling. It's a CGI effect, and it's just crawling down one of the pillars. It's like, so you got these silent creatures, which later on turn out to be part of the papal mainframe itself, and they just arbitrarily crawl like little creatures up and down the pillars, and just stalk various people there. And the only reason it was doing that at that specific time, and there was only one of them there, is so that we could have this fake scary moment to introduce us back to the Silents, who are or are not called the Silents, because we thought they were a race, but then they were a religious order or movement. And now it seems like it's also Silence to do with the Doctor being silent. So now these things really don't have any kind of fucking name at all. They're just a thing. So whatever. And what happened there was that wasn't always how it was going to be. It just got changed up. They were a race. They were fully established as that. but then they had to be changed around into a religious order, and then they had to be changed around again for it to be silence again, for the Doctor's silence, you know, for actual shut up, stop talking silence. And then these things just got forgotten. Literally. Maybe Stephen managed to fool himself into actually working his brain into forgetting them when he stopped looking at them, you know. Maybe that's what happened. Yeah, she's talking in there with him about the fear from the noise. He needs to go down there. So he's like, I'm gonna go down there. She's like, fine, but you can't go down there with technology. You gotta come back in an hour. That's all, fuck off. Fine. Clara runs in there because she saw the silent and remembered it, but then forgot again and then ran in there. And she's like, I don't know what's going on. The Doctor doesn't pick up on that, even though he's seen that kind of behaviour before. And then they fuck off down to the planet. That's also a good place to stop here, because we're now at 2 hours 5 fucking minutes, so Jesus fucking Christ, let's get onto it in the next minute. See you in a sec.